Hey, what's up? We are in Indiana, southern Indiana, hill country Indiana, and today we are going on an exploring trip, and we're going to be doing some scouting some public property. So I just kind of wanted to bring you along to kind of tell you some of my top things I look out for when I'm scouting new property, and hopefully we can find some really good sign together. So let's move. It's May 15th, and I'm kind of hoping that they have some mushrooms still popping down here. I would kind of think they would. The things I look for apply to not only early season scouting like in May, or post-season scouting in December, January, February, but all the way through the summer. So all these things you can kind of take with you and use every time you go out there. I'd say first thing I'm usually doing before I even ever get to a property, and I'm sure 99% of you are doing this right now, is e-scouting. And when I'm looking at e-scouting, I check out the access to the property to get back to where I want to get to. And when I mean access, I don't mean sneaking through to find like where they're bedding, how I'm going to get around them properly. I mean, I want to find barriers that are going to keep people out. Either it's long walks back, gated areas, waters, rivers, mountains, and down here in Indiana, in the southern portion of the state, hills and mountains are what the ticket is. We've accessed this property before, not from this way. It was completely on the other side, miles away. It's a big chunk of public. And what I'm seeing so far is this path narrows right down, and it kind of gets into more of ATV type things. There's a foot track, old ATV tracks. So that doesn't bother me too much. Coming from Michigan, us Michigan boys know stuff gets crazy pressure. But when you're looking for access, for personage, when it's miles in deep, or it's only ATV access past a gate, or it's only water in access, you're eliminating people each time there's a difficulty in front of them. Does that guarantee you more success back in these hunting areas? No. Does it guarantee a little bit less pressure? Probably. But the people that do access it, you don't know where they're sitting. You don't know their hunting style, if they're bumping deer coming in and out. So access is just the beginning to the piece of the puzzle on whether or not you want to hunt this particular chunk of public land or even private land. After showing up on site, deciphering the access of getting back to where you want to be, or at least starting the process of the access to get back to where you want to go. The thing I'm looking for next while walking around, so number 2, is the habitat. Let me put it to you this way. A monoculture, which is a singular culture of habitat, is no bueno, not good. So think of it this way. You've got a wheat field, or a cornfield, or a soy field. You've got your food. And that food is only going to be relevant for a very small period of time. And they're only going to use it during the day in a very small period of time. So where we can find habitats that merge together, aka big river flat bottoms, with mountainous peaks reaching down to the bottom, that's changes in habitat. You've got some maples, a couple hardwood. You got a tree stand right there, actually. So he's found a good change in habitat, and more than likely where you're going to find the most activity is where you have multiple habitats meeting each other. Hardwoods to pines to grasslands to feed, all in one little area, is going to be your most active point on any piece of property anywhere around for deer country. So that's the second thing I'm looking for, is habitat. I can tell you one thing I'm regretting that I forgot to bring is permethrin. Picked off 2 ticks of me already. Make sure I check all my cracks and crevices when I get to the shower. Alright, the next thing I'm kind of looking for ties together with your habitat. When you have these converging points all meeting together is where you find the most deer activity. So number 3 is going to be cover or security or bedding. That can be all combined into one. And I'm actually sitting kind of on this nice little bench on a finger, and there's a bed here, there's a bed over there, bed here, bed right behind me. And so that's a really good indicator They feel secure here, and it's a bedding area. With all these beds in one place, more than likely you're looking at doe bedding, but usually when that happens, bucks won't tend to be too far away, especially during the rut period. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that other finger over there, or if you go up, or if you go down, you're gonna find a singular bed, say within 100 yards to 75 yards of the primary doe bedding areas. Now this bedding in particular we found down through all this, I mean it's all the way up and through here, to me is not their safety zone. We're not incredibly far away from easy access. We're probably still under a half a mile. So these deer might use this as their initial bedding, waiting for danger to occur. So when somebody like me or somebody else comes walking down this cut or up this drainage, they spot them, now they're gonna go to their super secure, super secret bedding area. And that's what we're gonna go find. Their super secret bedding. We are now 2 fingers over from where the not so secret doe bedding area is. And we just found a nice first rub right here. It's actually a pretty solid rub from last year. And it's a reoccurring rub. You can see there's been regrowth on it from years prior. Hit again, hit again. So that's a cool sign. Now, a little thing with rubs, and if you don't, you should know this. But I'm going to tell you anyways. For those that don't, the rub that, since it's on this side of the tree right here, obviously that deer was rubbing right here, and that speaks to direction. So it was coming down, probably from back down this finger, which we're 2 fingers over from the does, hitting this rub, and then hitting this bottom in the afternoons when all the thermals are dropping down to this bottom. Number 4 on the list is food. Again, tying with habitat. And food to me isn't the biggest indicator of activity, but it's again another piece of that habitat that leads you to the most active area on the property. And it's taken me a while to find a source so far I'm happy with. Now, deer's primary source of food, it's like 80%, you can check up, it's up there, is woody browse. And woody browse includes leaves, twigs, buds, and then you have acorns that could fall into that category, I believe. Now here on this hill, there is bedding all down this finger back through here. There's tons of bedding. And I'm finally finding some oak trees, and it's got good understory. So not just wide open prairies, you have a habitat coming together of food, understory, and above ground canopy. And we've got acorns that are busted open from last year, and the foliage is looking beautiful. And you have bedding sitting here. You have it all kind of on this one little finger. Now, not to say that that finger doesn't have it or that finger over there, it could. But we're getting in the right direction. We're finding where things merge together, and we're finding more bedding. So we're gonna press on a bit further. I really gotta get about another mile out of this, and I'll let you know my number 5 after we get back there. All right, number 5, big one. Log everything or collect the data. If you're using a mapping system, drop pins on where sheds are, or where rubs are, or where scrapes are, or where does bedding is, or trails. Use that to the full extent. You pay for it, number 1. So why wouldn't you want to use it to its full extent? Number 2, having data just helps you make decisions in the long run. It helps you just compile a whole story about a piece of property. And in this case, this one right here, I find good signs in pockets, but I also find a lot of human sign coming off some private property. There's 4-wheeler paths that aren't marked on my mapping system that come off the private into the public, and where that is, I don't see a lot of deer activity, which is not surprising. Let's go check with Weston and see if he has any top 5 type kind of items that he looks for on new pieces of property. So let's get going and see what his top 5 are. We caught up with Weston, and I'm gonna make him give us his top 5 things he looks for when scouting new pieces of property.
I think my number 1 has to be access, starting from scratch on the e-scouting side. So, is it really hard to access? Is there access that someone's not gonna think about, like maybe a pull off or, barely a pull off, but not marked as such? I think that's my number 1. Number 2 is following access is diversity. The deer that I have killed in public came close to killing, very close to killing, and all the biggest deer are, you know, that 1.2, 1.5 miles in from hard access, and then right when I start arriving at diversity. I'll pass good sign and get to great sign, and the diversity I'm keying in on in my habit, like my terrain types and stuff, or clear cuts, old cut, pine plantings, or big cedar thickets. A lot of the forestry around me is also doing some really good cuts where they're like doing oak savanna type restoration and even prairie stuff. So diversity, if I can find myself some diversity, one of the best places I've ever found is a cedar thicket running between two clear cuts at different ages, and then really good hardwoods and oaks. You know, so you've got 2, 4, you know, 3 different habitat types, 4 different habitat types coming together.
What'd you find?
It's a deer bed. Got hair everywhere in here. Little doe.
And under this,
with all that rain, they will bed under here.
Right under the outcropping.
Yeah, there's another one over here.
All right, what's your next thing?
4 and 5, or what am I on? 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are terrain and sign. So terrain for me is actually a big factor, probably unlike you know, in your home state. But
yeah. Still factors, but yeah.
I mean, we're climbing 200, 300, 400 feet at a time. You know, ranging from 450 to 750, 800 right here in this area. And right here on these, obviously the points, and on that top third elevation, or middle third, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of beds and sign. We just came back to this area, and sign's my next one. I mean, I want to come up here and find beds. I want to find specific beds, and I want to find rubs next to these beds, and I want to find some scrapes to key in on with cameras, and sign to hunt and to know where the deer are so I can make a play off of them. And then I backtrack. I mean, it has to have access for me to hunt, and then hopefully there's either a crop field on private close by, or some of that diversity, like a clear cut where I know they're kind of headed for feed, or they're like, you know, walking a mile, 2, 3 miles to get to where their crops are, and I can cut them off. I think I can just turn these on and I don't have to connect it. Killability?
Is that what your 5th one is?
Yeah, I think killability would be my 5, because I've got entirely way too many keys. I lock all my cameras up because I don't like really putting them down high or up high. Yeah, number 5, first try. Look at that. Number 5 is killability. I might find good terrain, you know, good sign. First, I got to find, you know, a particular buck to kind of go after. But then if I find him, it's got to be killable. It's got to have the access, not only keep the human pressure off, so it's just me and the deer, and I can kind of not worry about other hunters, but I've got a spot that I've got a good bed in, and I've got the deer in. It's an old deer, and there's a sinkhole where he beds in, and anywhere you go on the whole ridge to get close enough to him to kill him in October or November, he's gonna bed, and it's a toilet bowl. It's literally just swirling winds, and they'll always catch you. And that's almost an unkillable deer. You know, you just have to get so far away and be lucky you can't play off his beds. It's really hard to play off the beds, in my opinion. But, you know, saddles like this with scrapes on them, you know, if you get a good daylight scrape and we know they're bedded on this wind or this side for this wind, you can hopefully come up a little shallow and be able to kill something like this. So, killability.
Number 5. All right, I think that's it for all of our tips. Or at least top 5 things we look for in public land or private land scouting. Basically new property scouting. So yeah, we're in this nice little oak flat right now. Got a lot of scrapes up here. Weston's got the camera hung, and we're gonna head out of here. So thanks for watching. Always appreciate you. Catch you on the next one. See ya.